Hey everyone, how's everyone doing? I hope the sound's okay. There's a bit of a tropical storm this morning. How does it sound on your end?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yep, you sound good. I'll give it
Awesome.
give it another minute and then we can get started and then I'll start recording.
Sure, no problem. It's been a bit of a crazy week as we move into
Can you guys
August.
hear me all right?
Yes.
When Lambo. Excuse me, can you guys hear me all right? I have a really bad connection.
No, you're good.
We got you, Rich.
Looks like we can get started. Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining on this Monday evening, our time. I know we're in a lot of different places. So thank you for making yourselves available.
Thank you for also putting this together.
Yeah, we've been receiving some of your questions and they're really, really great questions and we look forward to answering them. So thank you for submitting them ahead of time. And if you still have more that you haven't submitted yet, go ahead and just enter it into the Telegram group and we'll make sure we get to all of them. Okay, let's see. Yeah.
All
Take
right,
it
I'll
off.
take it away. So I guess some of you, there's a couple of questions. A lot of them are really revolving around the white paper and the platform launch. And there's a couple of things I just want to set straight. So the technology, we actually finished the beta, as in we were ready to go last month. I think it was like towards the end of June. We published the smart contract. Some of you Sherlocks have discovered it. But part of the issue is it's just not good enough. Our standards are quite high because when we roll out, we're going to be speaking to large banks, different neobanks that we can share financial rails with, different loan companies, and we don't want to go there with something a bit janky. So I understand people feel a bit frustrated, but the product's ready. It needs to be redesigned, But hopefully we are going to be opening the beta up to a few invited individuals, and then a couple of days later we'll be rolling it out to the Telegram group. So we need to put like a whitelist together, which is very simple. But I'm really looking forward to hear your guys' thoughts on it. But again, it's not ready yet. So if you remember the thing with the website, we didn't even tell you guys about the website, right? We weren't even using that website because Connie's been redesigning with a couple of GDs. And some of the feedback we got was very, very simple stuff that we just weren't even focused on, like the favicon or some of the layout. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the issue that we have. If we invite some people over to beta, you guys are going to say, "Oh, well, this is rubbish," and our answer is going to be, "Well, yeah, but we told you it's not ready yet." One of the things that we still need to do is integrate USDV into the liquidity book, like into the automate USDV really, so people come on, a couple of clicks, they can get USDV. So distribution is something that we basically need to finish. These aren't exactly difficult problems. These are just things that are remaining to be done. So we are going to open up the beta to a couple of you guys so you can, hopefully share some information, give us some solid feedback, not something ridiculous like I don't like the color blue. Something that will help us scale this as we launch. What else? Yeah, there's a couple of people getting a bit angry, I think, about TAN Tan selling stocks and shares. I mean, to be honest, I don't even think that's worth discussing. To me, it's not really a big deal. I know Tan works tirelessly. There was a couple of things that we needed budget for that was, Vemanti projects related. So, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that. Why is no one's really going after Elon for selling his shares, or no one's going after Bezos. I mean, Bezos dumped like 2 billion before he got divorced with Mackenzie, right? I would say that that's way worse.
Mind if I chime in, Warren?
Not just yet, mate. Just let me finish. So to me, it's not really a big deal. I understand that people are getting frustrated because from our side, we see everything that's going on, right? We see all of the companies that we're speaking to. We're seeing all of these different BD partners that are joining. We're speaking to a bunch of different protocols. So to us, we're working tirelessly. To you guys, you might just see it as we're not. Maybe we should be better in giving you guys updates, which is, one of the reasons we're having the call today. But just let us know what you guys want to hear more about, really. So I can understand that you guys are a little bit frustrated. But on our side, we're going to be opening up the beta to a couple of people this week. We spoke to some protocols. There's a protocol out there with an extremely low settlement cost. We're talking like a couple of cents. So this is going to really push adoption. We've also been speaking to some women's groups, so we can hopefully have a platform that can support female entrepreneurs in some emerging countries. These are mostly based in Southeast Asia, as this is the first target market. And then we'll be looking at Latin America and Africa, as you guys are aware of. So I guess we can start opening up questions. Is there some in the Telegram group that I need to refer to? Okay. So people are asking about the website. I think, Connie might have a better idea of that. As far as I'm aware, it's done. I think we're just waiting for the platform to be allowed.
Yeah, you guys definitely did jump the gun a little bit, because we still have a couple kinks to work out on the website, and I appreciate some of you have reached out to me privately about a couple other additions to the website. So thank you for that. We really appreciate you taking the time to look over the website to make sure everything's up and running. With that being said, this is also just a beta site. We just wanted to get something up. We've been working on this for quite some time now, but we did promise you guys that we'd be having a website up soon, and this is our beta site. So this is an opportunity for people to also sign up to be update to receive the latest updates on anything else. But also, you guys are already in the Telegram group, so you guys are already the first to know of anything.
Okay, so yeah, this is why I refer to you guys as Sherlocks, right? I'm sure someone's combing the sitemap every 10 minutes just to try and get an update. But yeah, essentially, there's the new website. Hopefully, the favicon and all the other basic stuff are done. But as Connie said, we are making a few adjustments to it. So you guys can see that we're prepping to roll out pretty soon. There's a couple more things that we want to do for inviting. So we'll probably release more details in the Telegram group just to get a few of you guys. If you're interested, you can always send me a DM. I'll try and get around to it. If you just try and leave the last message that you reply to, or if the last message that you send me is USDV white label, that will make it much easier for me to comb through the messages. Because obviously, as we kind of get more eyes on this, there's a lot more people that are messaging. A lot of people send me to LinkedIn, but I'm just getting kind of overwhelmed right now. But you guys have my Telegram, so it's much easier to if you just send a question or anything you want, and then the last message you say is USDV in white list. That'd be fantastic. Okay, so the first question that I can see is, hi Warren, regarding the terms of service, I noticed that residents in certain jurisdictions may not purchase, hold nor redeem USDV. Why is the United States included in the list of countries? Okay, so the first answer to that is, it's essentially one of the trust partners that we work with. They're based outside of the US, but what we have is an SPV that we can essentially distribute USDV through. So then US and Singapore entities are not allowed to mint, but that is only really a restriction for large cap and institute players. In terms of retail people being able to use, they're able to obtain this through a distribution partner or an exchange or other regulated entity. So it doesn't stop people, it doesn't stop US citizens or Singapore citizens or Hong Kong citizens from using USDV, it just stops them from minting. But the way that we kind of control the flow is by managing the reserve. So the minting is only done in, 6 to 7 figure batches. So it's very uncommon. We don't anticipate a lot of retail users being able to focus on this amount. So it's really just about the minting and redeeming. FDIC insurance coverage. Okay, Warren, can you explain the FDIC insurance coverage up to 130 mil per tax ID? We are used to the 250K coverage per deposit, right? So the 250K per account, how that's essentially managed is the 130 mil is distributed between different accounts. So reserves or assets that are part of the custody are distributed between different accounts. So the 250K per tax ID is essentially on the account. And when you have multiple different accounts, the custodian is able to increase the, essentially able to increase the FDIC insurance on that asset. So any fiat stored within the account is, FDIC insured, basically. There's also a nifty trick that one of the custodians have with foreign assets as well, which is one of the reasons that we decided to work with them. Obviously, as we're a global product, we want to be able to offer this to a lot of different assets. So what we can do with the foreign currency that's residing in the custodian is that can also be FDIC insured, which is a very nifty trick. Okay. Oh yeah, you guys like the new logo? Awesome. Warren, are we under the assumption that if the US can put forth a regulation framework for stablecoins, the SBV, State Bank of Vietnam, can suffer a lawsuit with similar regulation? I highly doubt it. So Vietnam is very lacking in trust laws, custodian laws. There's a lot of financial regulation that Vietnam lacks. Most entities or most individuals, no one really declares tax in Vietnam. That's part of the issue, really, because as we work with a lot of these entities, a lot of the assets they have are undeclared, and that's been a bit of an issue for us. But we have found several very strong partnerships that are interested in scaling out of Vietnam and across Southeast Asia. Some of them are really focused on different regions that we have, like Africa, Latin America, North America. So the main issue has been the lack of financial regulation in Vietnam. But this is only one country. We're literally looking at 150 other countries as well. So I honestly don't think Vietnam would follow any sort of regulation from the US. In my opinion, I think that the US is only really doing this because China's ahead of the game, and a lot of other countries are trying to play catch up. If you look at El Salvador, all the news surrounding that about accepting Bitcoin as legal tender, China pushing the yuan, it just makes sense that these are the countries. Part of the issue, it's not really an issue, but part of the benefit of the US trying to play catch up is that they're rushing to regulate. Regulation is great for us because we're already regulated. We intend on remaining compliant. And the other thing is that because they're in a rush, they're essentially tying it to capital market regulation, which obviously we're very familiar with. So there's no real downsides to it, I can tell. It's going to be very difficult for a lot of US citizens, no matter where you guys are in the world, to be able to operate with different currency, cryptocurrency platforms, etc. So DeFi is going to get a lot more attractive to people in regulated countries. But for us, it's fantastic. Okay, Joe says, I understand that currently the USDV is preemptively addressing the regulations. The launch to the public comes closer. Can you discuss how retroactively new regulations coming out as the project is live? These regulations, oh, well, I think I actually just unintendedly answered that. Yeah, so regulation for US is definitely following capital markets. So I actually had a discussion with, I can't remember the name, some market maker. They actually work with USDT. They're redeeming like set 8 figures per week of USDT, and we had a huge, I wouldn't say argument, it was a heated discussion, very friendly discussion. But I was like, USDT is a scam. He's like, it might be a scam, but we're still able to work with it. So it was very interesting to see their point of view. So as a market maker, they offer a very essential service to a lot of these exchanges. So we had a big discussion around regulation and this kind of stuff. What they anticipate is market makers are essentially going to be extremely regulated. I'm sure you guys are very familiar with, stock market market makers, but with the crypto industry, it's a very essential service that not many people can provide, really. Yeah. So how we essentially anticipate a lot of these regulatory frameworks moving forward is US citizens are going to be having more of a difficult issue. When I was speaking to the market maker, we had a good discussion on the DeFi aspect. So US citizens are essentially going to be forced into a lot of these unregulated DeFi markets, which is, as we know, it's a pretty bad thing. You have to be very vigilant. There's a lot more research to be done. And then we had a discussion on USDC. So what I anticipate is USDC and Coinbase and Circle, etc. They're very new to regulation. They're not familiar with it. So what we're going to find is USDC and maybe not Coinbase even now, but Circle, all of these guys that have banking charters, they've just been in a rush to become regulated. They've acquired things that they may not need. So in my opinion, having a banking charter just may restrict you a lot more than being a private entity that's regulated. We anticipate that USDC may have to focus on domestic markets. That it's going to be extremely difficult for them to operate outside the US. So this is where a product like USDV comes in. We are already regulated. We're very familiar with regulatory frameworks. We're focusing on offshore transfers, payments, remittance. So we intend to be used not just in the US, but globally. I think we're going to find that USDC is going to be extremely nervous once they have the regulation, because it's not easy. There's a lot of steps to do. And we're going to find that a lot of processes and operations of USDC are going to be restricted, and they're going to have to change a lot about minting, redemption. There's going to be a lot more KYC, AML. So USDV being a privatized entity is going to be fantastic, in my opinion. And for USDV, I honestly don't think there's going to be any blockers for us. We sit in the perfect sweet spot. We're a regulated entity, but we're not held to like a banking charter, for example. But we do work with entities that have banking charters. But we are much more fluid as we essentially, we're much more fluid as we kind of scale. So I think that's one of the biggest benefits of USDV. Is there a time when we're going to hear partnership announcements as well as an outlined roadmap for USDV rollout? Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things really. I can give you a brief overview now, essentially of where we're going with this. So, I mean, we wanted the platform to be out last month, but we're just, every time we sneeze, there's some sort of form that we have to fill in, essentially. So, obviously being SEC regulated or reporting it's not an easy task. There's a lot of things that we have to go through. There's everything from the phrasing of the brand message that we push out, to essentially the features of the product that we have to be extremely careful. There's so much tiptoeing around what we can and can't do, and we have to be careful of. But it's extremely difficult. I mean, there's a reason why TransferWise don't offer crypto. There's a reason why PayPal allow you to buy crypto, but you're not allowed to withdraw it from the platform. There's all of these reasons why no one has done an all-in-one app. But the beauty of blockchain technology is this allows us to put a lot of these financial tools in the hands of people. So we don't essentially run a centralized, we don't essentially run a decentralized financial tool, but we're giving people the option of using it themselves. This has only been available with blockchain technology, and no one's really wanted to do it before because first it was an unregulated market, then there was fear of a regulated market. So there is a lot of things for us to do. So once we announce the whitelist for beta users to come on, we're looking at different protocols. So these protocols essentially will be a basket of USDV that sits on that reserve, and then we can handle different things. There will be a protocol that's good for staking. There'll be a good protocol for overseas payments. There'll be another protocol for remittance. All of these will have a direct impact on the ecosystem that we push out. So after the platform, we intend to attract probably like 5 figures of users just to test, maybe 6. And then what we'll do from there is we will start pushing out the different DeFi ecosystem. So we already have a very strong technical lead. They're going to be joining the project in a couple of weeks or a couple of months. And what they'll essentially do is lead the ecosystem as we push it out. These are going to include different staking protocols, different payments. There'll probably be an automatic market maker. We're hoping to try and push a decentralized exchange, but from what we've heard from the legal team, that's just not the best thing, because then we would be facilitating transactions and a whole bunch of other legalese that we don't really want to do. And then from the ecosystem, it's really just about focusing on different projects that have very solid returns. So these would be different ways of earning interest, whether it be from an SME loan, or whether it be a capital stake, or whether it would just be one of a straight up, loan to margin traders. And then from there, we're going to be looking at either prepaid debit cards for travel once the borders open up and stuff. And then we'll be looking at different credit card options. But this is literally spread out over 12 months. So there's a lot of stuff that we have to do. It's just waiting for essentially the regulators to give us thumbs up. I know it can be very frustrating for you guys, but you have to understand that I've been working on this since 2020 now. And just when we get so close to the deadline, or to the door, I should say, the legalese are saying, oh, wait, let's just review this, let's just see. So how can you do this? So when the SEC comes to town and say, so you guys are doing a stable coin? That's interesting. What can you do with this, blah, blah, blah. So it's frustrating for us as well, right? Because we put so much effort into it, and then for us to be told to wait, we don't really want to wait. We want to get it out the door as soon as possible. But I do feel your guys' frustration. But just bear with us, have a little patience. We're just so close to the finish line now. We don't want to rush anything out that could compromise everything. Okay, there's 4 questions. I know you can't go into much detail. Can you tell us anything about the current relationships between Prime Trust and First Digital? Yeah, they're custodian partners. So one is based in North America, one is based in Hong Kong. They have good technology stacks that integrate very well. So for us, they're just custodian partners. First Digital are based in Hong Kong, and we anticipated some pushback from mainland China, but we've been assured that if that should happen, things may migrate to Singapore. So there's literally so many different possibilities that all have a plan B. That no one should really be concerned about anything moving forward. I know you have touched on how SEC is calling for regulation and how the entire state of the stablecoin market is, especially with Tether. But can you get into a little bit about how Vemanti is in a position to take advantage of new regulatory frameworks being put in place? Tether and USD, crash, etc. And what will this mean in terms of growth? Yeah, I did touch on it a little bit before. What I personally anticipate is USDC is going to be forced to focus more on domestic market, North American market. USDV being a privatized entity that isn't held by banking charters or very strict capital constraints, we're able to move much more fluidly with privatized entities outside. So what we anticipate is that the US is definitely going to need a service like this. In my opinion, USDC is becoming too regulated. What they've essentially done is, they've just like Coinbase, for example, have just replicated an old inefficient model of financial tools. And what we sit in the middle of is privatized entity that's taking the full advantage of blockchain, but still remaining compliant as to be secure for users. I've been stalking your LinkedIn, and you said, my current goal is to support the financial ecosystem with strong use case solutions and push the boundaries of future tech. So I can't remember the last time that I updated my LinkedIn bio, but I'm pretty sure this was like 2019. I wrote that. So the question is this something you feel you're doing with the USDV and the Vemanti ecosystem? I fully believe it is. So just before Corona, when I moved to Vietnam with a client, I absolutely fell in love with Vietnam and just decided to stay there. I was actually working on a project called Spend, SPEND, and that was essentially fluid payments with stable coins. Unfortunately, it didn't really go anywhere. It was, literally a one-man band. I was very lucky to meet Tan. But a lot of the connections and a lot of the groundwork that I lay essentially with Spend, we've pulled into USDV. So this is what I mean by when I say that there's a, we've been working on this for a long time now. This isn't just like a project we announced a few weeks ago and then we're pushing it out. This has been, a long time in the making. You being a startup addict after Vemanti has grown better than expected, will you move on to the next project? Or are you here for the long term to be a big player in the industry? Well, one of the benefits that I personally see with this ecosystem is I'm going to be able to manage a lot of different projects, as we scale. So once, for example, the payments platform, gets to 1 million users, 2 million users, I'm going to be able to focus on another ecosystem, another project within our ecosystem, and then grow that to 1 million users, and then move on to the next one. So I'm fully invested in staying here till I'm old and grey. I don't plan on leaving anytime soon. Also, being a venture partner with a venture capital firm that are based in Japan and San Francisco, I've had a lot of insight into how COVID operations are happening for financial investments. A lot of startups there. So it's been very interesting to see that large capital players are still moving money, despite COVID. People are still looking to invest in projects all around the world. So it's fantastic for us as we grow an ecosystem to tap into that network of essential startup addicts, all around the world to support this ecosystem. So this is one of the things that we anticipate high growth is digital nomads still operating. Economic immigrants are more prevalent than before. There's so much need for, the global economy is not a domestic economy anymore. The world is such a small place now than it was 10 years ago. And even though that people can't travel, COVID hasn't really dampened anything in terms of digital nomad economic immigrants. Capital, money doesn't sleep, right? So there's still a huge need. And then if you look at the Elon side, the other Vemanti projects, people are always going to need loans. And, unfortunately in this pandemic, people still need cash flow. So there's a lot of Vemanti investments that, in my opinion, fantastic investments, despite COVID kind of slowing down a lot of industries. There's a lot of great investments from Tan's side. That there's so much foresight that Tan offers. It really is quite incredible. So I don't anticipate any issues with VMNT despite COVID. Can you define perpetual yield? I could, but that's something you're going to have to wait for the white paper. The perpetual yield is definitely something that the lawyer's been very strict on the phrasing and how we get right. So I'd love to, But I can't even discuss it in like a less informal manner. You guys should just wait for the white paper to discuss the yield. Also is utilized for DeFi purposes and is sealed. What will make users come to USDV? So that is actually something that we anticipate people to come to us for. Another one is essentially a regulated stablecoin. People still don't trust USDT. They still don't trust USDC. And we just want to make it more, the distribution much more available. On top of that, we actually have a use case. So USDC, USDT, you know, they're great for P2P trades and stuff, but we want to build this ecosystem and this payments where, you know, an agriculture farmer in Argentina can, you know, send and buy 10 kilograms of grain for his cows or whatever with USDV. You know, we want to be looking at off-chain transactions. It's just solid use cases from USDV. You know, we want to make people's lives easier. It's not about making it, you know, once they get onto, once they download a smart wallet, for example, how are they going to be able to, you know, transfer and use mnemonics and stuff like this? We want to make a very solid product that people can use. And we're basing that around USDV. Oh, is this another question? Does USDV plan to be as widespread on exchanges as USDC? We do. That's mostly just for distribution and ease of access. So we're not looking at going on every single exchange. We just want to partner with, first of all, they have to be regulated, which cuts out probably, you know, 70% of the exchanges out there. But yeah, we were just focusing really on the main, probably I would say the big four, not Coinbase, because they might not be a fan of us. But it depends, you know. We might have a conversation. We might have another conversation with them where they wanna work together. But yeah, we already are speaking to exchanges. There's a couple of things. Some of the exchanges want crazy listing fees. Some want like 500K USD just to list, and then they want like 4 million as a liquidity. And what we're trying to say to them is like, you know, we'll give you the liquidity, but we don't want to pay for a listing fee, you know. Some of them have come back and said, all right, we'll do it as like a deposit kind of thing. But to be honest, like, I mean, you know, we're not some sort of shitcoin project where we need to pay a listing fee. You know, we want this to be a demand based product. So it's kind of like a chicken and egg. So that's the only barrier that we have with some exchanges now. Some of them are just waiting for transaction volume. So once we have like, you know, 3,000 wallet users, for example, then we can start to have a serious discussion with some others. Question, what's your vision on how you see Vemanti USDV stablecoin being listed as one of the top stablecoins? Transaction volume, mostly. So as we roll out to most likely the second or third country, we'll probably have high enough TVL, not transaction volume lot. TVL is in transactional volume. We'll probably have enough of that for us to be pushed up and start to gain some attraction, especially with payments. If we start looking at places like Bali, for example, if we can get a few merchants to use our platform to accept payments from tourists or other merchants without people having to go to the bank or the ATM, that could push us up. That's what we anticipate. The kind of second feature is the staking to earn, but there's going to be more details on that in the white paper. So in terms of like a user adoption strategy, most of it is just based around use case. We just want to give people a solid use case, not just a stable coin that they just have, not just an alternative to the others. We want to give them like an actual solid ecosystem they can interact with. Next question, when Lambo, when Moon? I know you can't say much about potential or current partners you're talking to, but when it comes to certain aspects that would be attractive to some sort of business combination, are you looking at people that's more focused on certain industries that could aid USDV rollout? So, so the first partners that we've been speaking to are the protocol partners. This allows us to deploy a varied smart contract or whatever format that they may use. That's the first goal. The second one is distribution partners. So these are on and off ramps. We've spoken to a few in South America. There's one in Vietnam that we've already solidified a connection with. They have quite a lot of transactions and remittance. We finished the DD, everything seems good to go. So what the first step for us is to essentially operate a financial corridor between the US and Vietnam. The next one may be Indonesia. And then we are looking at Thailand because there's a very large community over there. We were looking at mainland China, but the more recent announcements of their regulation, we kind of pulled back a little bit. But the solution is, the system that we have is able to work with a capital constrained country like Bangladesh or mainland China. So it's interesting to see. It's interesting to see how mainland China kind of moves a bit forward. But yeah, so the partners that we're essentially setting up the financial corridors, and then the next partners are going to be more payments, merchants. So we'll probably have to have like an on-the-ground team to kind of push people to adopt. So that should see the user side scale up quite rapidly, I would say, before the end of the year. So as I said, we're hoping to get like 1 million users. So we'll see how that goes. I think we're just going to try and start with 5 or 6 figures of users before we move into the next stage. But that's another key component. Okay, and then after the financial remittance and the payments, I think that's when we'll probably start looking for the DeFi ecosystem as well. But they're the partners that we have on the books, like that we've been speaking to. Most of them are distribution payments focused. That's just to help us scale up. When white paper, when mobile. Okay, so Frank's doing an actually amazing job, to be honest. When he gave us the first draft weeks ago, it was miles apart from what we already had. And basically when we started to get political interest in USDV, that's when we knew that we couldn't have a substandard white paper, right? And the lawyers went through, combed through everything, so we've already got kind of the glossary of terms that they've approved. But Frank's just doing an amazing job. His skill really shines through his understanding of the financial, not just Federal Reserve, but the concept of money. And as we move forward from 2021, what is money? What does it mean to have money? How do we use money? What do we see as money? So it's just absolutely phenomenal. When that's available, I mean, I don't really want to put a date on it because you guys don't seem to like that. But I would say a week or two, maybe longer, maybe, who knows, man. But all I can say is when it's complete, it will be fantastic. Fantastic, assured. The mobile app. So what we're focused on first is a web platform. The first one is essentially, the reason that we've chosen the web platform is that we don't have to focus on different OS systems. We don't have to focus on, an unsecure platform. We don't have to focus on working with Symbian or a Samsung phone or iOS or anything like that. We can just literally work on, any device. It's also much more secure, much easier. So the other thing that we want to do is essentially port that from a native mobile app into a native version. It's relatively easy to do, but we can, that's essentially the next step. So focused on the web platform that's still able to use on mobiles, just mostly for deployment. And then we're going to port that into a native mobile app, but it's still going to be based around the web app, just to avoid a lot of testing requirements. Because pushing a solid native mobile app takes a lot of work, a lot of resources, and we want to scale this quite quickly. One of the things that we have to focus on is that it works. So yeah. Okay. Another question about the white paper. I think I touched on the roadmap. US political interests and conversations. Yeah, so when we have like political bodies or personalities inquire about USDV, what is a privatized stablecoin? What are our focuses with USDV? We want to make sure that everything's in top shape. We don't just want to focus on just pushing something substandard out. But yeah, I mean, look at the El Salvador thing. You can imagine that there's a lot of politicians out there now that are looking at, oh, maybe I should jump on the crypto bandwagon. And obviously being a privatized SEC regulated stablecoin is definitely something for them to discuss. Any questions, guys?
Yes, sir. First, I wanted to say the new logo looks really nice, and the website also looks a lot better. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated.
Right. So Warren, one thing I wanted to tell you is so I got a lot of people in this talk, man. I got people I know, this and that. You said that, look, it's not about the project, but you said that it's not a big deal that Tan's selling. I want you to understand one thing. If he would just communicate what he's doing, why he's selling, it would make a difference. Our stock has gone down over 50% in the last 3-4 weeks once Tan started selling. To compare him to Elon Musk, listen, Elon Musk, he's a leader, dude. He's the ultimate cheerleader for his company. Tan is staying quiet. He's not on his level. We're not talking about numbers, about the monies or the products they're creating. That guy speaks for his company, and the only volume in the word, you may feel like we're not part of the team, but we're doing a lot to get the word out for the company, and the company's staying quiet. A good thing. And if the CEO is selling shares, look, nobody says he can't sell shares, man, but sell shares when the price is going up, not when it's going down. And if you want to sell shares, create some kind of buzz, get the word out there. That's what we want. That's why for a long time I've been requesting a forward split, but he doesn't understand the value of that. So that's that. And the thing is the guy's got 27 million shares and 40 million preferred shares, and we are imagine putting $300,000 into a company's quiet and you're down 50% while you got bills to pay, man. Well, I just want to say we're a big part of the team, and I feel neglected, and I know a lot of the shareholders feel neglected as well for CEO not leading some.
I get it. I get it, and you don't understand how much we all. I don't think you guys understand how much we all appreciate a lot of stuff that you guys.
I'm sorry. I apologize to cut you off, bro. But until you put your money on the line, bro, you don't get it, Warren. Respectfully.
Well, no, I understand that there's a lot that we've got on the line going here. I understand that you guys are really working hard. But another thing that I want you guys to understand is it's not easy to work with a regulated entity. As I've mentioned before, the minute we sneeze, there's 10 questions, there's a form we have to fill out. So that's the only reason that I can see from your guys' point of view is why we're staying quiet. We're not really trying to stay quiet, but it's just anytime we say something, it has to be very calculated, and we have to get it approved. And it's a big endeavor.
I understand.
This estate.
Warren, I understand, sir. I understand. My only request is that we're in the dollar range, or we were in the dollar range. All I ask is for the CEO to do a forward split because the company needs more time. He needs to sell shares on the open market so he can raise funds for the company to grow. And great, that's what a forward split is for. If our price goes down, more buyers come in, more volume comes in, then he can sell shares on the open market.
I really can't discuss anything about Vemanti operations.
Yeah, I got you, man. All right.
It's not my purview.
Just to chime in, we totally hear you, Rich. I don't know if that's your real name or not, but I hear the passion in your voice, and I promise you, we hear you. We understand your frustration, and obviously, we wouldn't be where we are today with all of your commitment and obviously your hard-earned money investing, purchasing these tokens. But with that being said, as you all know, we are a regulated company. So it's not like Tan is dumping, his shares just for his personal, life. Like he clearly, I promise you, he has reasons for it. And you'll definitely have more of an understanding in the coming weeks. Just like Warren said, timing is of the essence, and there are just some things we can't disclose at the moment, but it's nothing. I can assure you, it's absolutely nothing to be concerned about, despite the dip in the market recently. But this is just a small dip in a long-term game that we're playing. So,
Connie, I'm sorry to cut in. Listen, 50% dip in a month is a big deal. All I ask is, hey, release a press release. Let's put more eyes on the company so more people buy it. Like I said again, so there's a chart that you guys don't understand as traders, all right? Once certain people are under and the price keeps dropping, I don't know if everybody would be together if the stock price crashes, okay? Because the point I'm trying to make is that volume is the blood for the company. Once the volume goes away, it's not a good thing, And my point is I am trying to help the company by bringing in more volume, or we are as shareholders, but we need, like, it doesn't hurt for us, for you guys, or whatever, Warren, you're doing. It's just where you live in the age of information. If the stock's going down, as soon as the CEO starts selling it, well, we're buying, even though there's no news, we're trying to help the stock. The CEO starts selling, it goes straight down for 3-4 weeks, and he's still quiet. That's not a good look. He wants to stay quiet. Great, fine, do it. At least do something good for us, which is a forward split. It doesn't hurt anybody, but the CEO is just quiet about that, It is a big deal, guys. I got friends and family members, for whatever reason, I told them about it. The biggest mistake of my life, right? These are people I know in person. And the CEO is quiet about it. Why? Elon Musk ain't quiet. You can't compare Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos to 10. He hasn't earned that yet. And if we're throwing our money in it, he's got 70 million. His net worth is going up in the long run, I'm sorry, I'm just going to get off. I'm a little emotional.
I don't really want to mention anything about a forward split, because last time that we just had a discussion about it, it was taken out of context. So I can't really discuss anything on Vemanti operations. I get that you're saying, the price is down and stuff, but unfortunately, it's, as Connie said, we're playing a long game here. This isn't something that we're anticipating. We're not going to be able to reach or compete with TransferWise next week. But we do think, we're very confident that we can compete with large players such as TransferWise.
Yeah, and from my thank you guys, first of all, Warren and Connie, for coming on tonight. But from my opinion, I think a lot of the frustration, and stocks go up and down, but yeah, there's been a big drop. But I think a lot of my frustrations, feels like the goalposts keep getting moved. Like there's certain release dates or speculated release dates for certain things in the company, and then they just keep getting pushed back and keep getting pushed back and keep getting pushed back, and that's, to me, where my frustration comes in.
I totally hear that, and I honestly respect that, and I feel very sorry that you guys feel that we've kind of moved the deadline. In all honesty, the white paper just isn't good enough. The platform just didn't look ready. Most of it was UI, but the technology behind it is 100% solid. That's one of the reasons why we want to open up to a few of you guys, so we can hear some solid constructive criticism. But just to kind of prove and put a lot of these stuff to rest, that the technology is ready. It doesn't look the greatest, but it works. It's very solid. We've already been speaking to several different merchant partners that want to be onboarded immediately. So it's, literally this week we should be opening up to beta users, and then we'll try and get some feedback and some testimonials, so you guys can see, just the power of the solution. Really, it doesn't look the best, but it works like a dream. So that's one of the reasons why we want to open up the whitelist to a lot of people. But yeah, I do hear your frustrations. I myself, I'm also frustrated. I want to get this out the door. But what we don't want to happen is we don't want to release a junky product and and then people use it once or twice and they don't come back. We want people to use it, see the value from other products they use, and then migrate. But thanks, I really appreciate it, and I am sorry you guys are getting frustrated. Is the any other questions regarding the USDV project?
Man, I want to apologize if I seem rude.
It's all right. I appreciate the passion, guys. We're very lucky to have such passionate people.
It means you care, so we appreciate you.
Shit,
Hey.
I got a $500,000 in it. I sure care.
Hey, Warren, I had a question with the USDV project. And I know you can't clearly define perpetual yield yet, considering that's something that's got to be disclosed in the white paper and things like that. But I guess, how would you define the yield that USDC claims to get from their staking and things like that? If we can't define perpetual yield for USDV, how would you define the USDC yield as it's not being perpetual, if that makes sense?
So yeah, no. So a lot of other projects, what they focus on, in my opinion, can be related to a Ponzi, right? People stake an asset. They get given an alternative asset. The only use case for that alternative asset that they receive the interest in is to be sold. Part of the issue is, by the time people come to sell the alternative asset, the price, just is essentially tanks. They're getting 100% APY in some shitcoin that when they come to sell it, everyone else is trying to sell it at the same time. So it's literally just, taking with the left and then giving out with the right. Assets that are somewhat regulated, like if you look at Celsius or you look at USDC, the biggest loan partner for these are margin traders, market makers, people that need liquidity. So they take that, they earn the interest, they give it back. But in volatile markets such as cryptocurrency, it's very difficult to keep that like a safe option. The interest rates fluctuate rapidly. A lot of the assets they kind of issue in depreciate very, very quickly. A lot of people that have limit orders are getting pulled. A lot of stop losses get called, a lot of margin doctrines get called. So it's just not sustainable. What we are trying to achieve is essentially pulling the interest from a capital market. So we loan it to a real business, a loan company that's lending it to social impact loans, to SMEs, to essentially real loans of people. So the reserve is pulled, we issue that to a loan company, they issue the loan, they reclaim the loan, they offer the interest, and then we return that to the holders. The rates are something that we have to define to be very reasonable and long. But for us, it's all about safety. The main feature for us is to determine that the loan is paid back. So that's why at the beginning we only want to work with entities that Vemanti has an equity stake in, or at least a board seat, some way that we can have full transparency of the operations of that company. So for us, I would say it's a very safe option. It's not as attractive as this, 300% APY that all of these DeFi protocols promise, but at the same time, it's very safe. It's extremely competitive and a better rate than banks or other loan services. But it's all about longevity. If someone stakes their asset, they save, they lock, whatever, we know that over the course of a year, everything's going to be fine. After 1 year, they can definitely return the funds plus the interest. With the USDC, for example, they're not transparent about how the interest is generated, right? So that's why some of them can just be described as a Ponzi. The interest that they pay out is essentially from other people putting interest in. The same with Celsius. Celsius have been dropped by a couple of institute partners because they're not clear, they're not transparent about how they earn interest, about what they do with funds. So yeah, I mean, that's the whole reason really by issuing and making sure that the phrasing around the staking and the yield is very clear, very transparent. We want to do it in a compliant fashion. which a lot of these entities are not. But it's all about safety. You know, financial inclusivity for all is a very strong brand message that we have. So we want people in Argentina, Peru, or Cambodia, or Indonesia, we want them to be able to see this as a very viable, safe alternative to financial institutes in their domestic country, and definitely a lot more safer and transparent than a lot of these DeFi or DGen-Fi projects that are out. So that's probably the difference, I would say, between our project and their project.
Okay, cool. Thanks for the answer. If I could ask another question, unless someone else does, but let's just say, like, let's fast forward 10 years from now. Hypothetically, all the central banks now have their own digital currencies. Do you think USDV and other stable coins issued by companies will still be around, or do you think central bank digital currencies will kind of take over and make these stable coins obsolete, if you had to guess?
So, okay, so if you look at Walmart, right, a Walmart loyalty card or Costco points, whatever you want to call it, they are essentially a branded stablecoin. They don't run on blockchain technology, but they definitely are some sort of a privatized stablecoin, right? You deposit the assets in the company, you get these loyalty points, you spend those loyalty points in their ecosystem, which is essentially a chain of stores or services that they offer. So they're never going to go away, right? They're always going to be around. The benefit of working with a privatized entity is that we're much more fluid. We're not operated by capital constraints. This is one of the reasons why gray market money movers are very prevalent in countries like China, Bangladesh, because capital constraints just don't keep up with the demand. These legacy rails, these have probably been designed in like 1940, 1950, and we're still using those today. So back then, it was very difficult for someone to jump on a Zoom call. It didn't really exist, right? Or have a mobile phone. Call someone and say, hey, I need you to, move this, and you send a payment, etc. People are doing payments with a mobile phone these days. In China, people do it with the scan of a QR code. When I lived in China, I didn't touch cash money for 6 months, 7 months. And the first time I did, it was because I received a deposit from my landlord, who probably didn't register the apartment as like a sublease, so he had to pay me in cash. So privatized entities that are issuing stablecoins are always going to be around. It's just in a regulated fashion. We're able to work with different services, different countries much more fluidly than these other companies with banking charters that have to focus on domestic regulations. So for us, I don't see any issue with USDV being a long-term project. I don't see any issues with the privatized entity issuing a stablecoin in the future. As long as we're compliant and we follow domestic laws on both sides. It's going to be difficult, sure, but that's the reason why we're taking so long to lay the groundwork now. So we don't have any problems in the future.
I think we might have touched on this a while, like last call, but do you know if there's any precedent? I can't think of any of a government adopting like a crypto coin. Warren, I guess is what I'm wondering, because the reason I'm asking is because of the political, and the conversations had over that.
Yeah, I mean, China's already issued the EUN. They did the airdrop lottery. I think that was last year, maybe. I think it was last year, 2020. So what they did was they got a lot of citizens to create a digital wallet, and then they did a lottery, essentially. I think it was like from $1 to $150. They just distributed randomly to a bunch of citizens. This was really just to boost adoption. I mean, one of the reasons for airdrops is to essentially increase wallet amounts. The reason for this is on the blockchain, it looks like there's a lot of transactions, a lot of users, but in reality, they've just distributed a bunch of free tokens. So China's really leading the way in terms of a digital currency. I don't see any domestic. So what I don't anticipate is a lot of these CBDCs are not going to replace stablecoins. What they're just going to replace is the fiat system. This makes a lot of sense for countries to monitor tax, payments, keep an eye, basically. So it's really obvious for countries like China or Russia But in terms of a privatized stablecoin, there's always going to be a need for a fluid alternative to currency, right? There's, you know, if say, for example, a trade invoice financing company, they want to send, they're based in North America, they have an office by the port in Hong Kong, an office by the port in India. When they send the payments to pay for their staff and team and operations, they need to be held to a lot of the tax laws on each side, right? So when they send it to the HR person, that HR person needs to monitor all of those other transactions and disperse them on that side. Then they need to come back and make sure like the HR and payroll matches. Then someone needs to handle the tax in both those entities plus the US side. So it's a very complicated payment system. Companies like this definitely use privatized alternatives like gray money movers because they need the funds to be issued immediately. You know, they don't want to pay tax in the US if they're paying tax in India. They don't want to pay tax in Hong Kong if they're paying tax in the US. So it's a very complicated financial distribution. So some of the trade invoice partners we've been speaking to, they see it very simple of, you know, oh, I can just load up my digital wallet and I can send the transaction from the US. I could send it to Vietnam, for example, and everything is handled automatically by smart contracts. So it makes their lives much, much easier. So middlemen, unfortunately, are always going to be around. There's just going to be different methods that they work with. But the solution of USDV is we take all of the headache out of this, combine that with the regulated entity that governs the whole platform. It's a very strong solution that has, you know, tons of monetization, and longevity again is the key. As long as we remain compliant and we follow the rules, there shouldn't be any problems whatsoever. I hope that answers something that you're looking for.
Yeah, it did. Thanks, man.
Hey, Warren, just another question from me. So I think a point was brought up just now about, like, you know, the like a stablecoin be adopted by government or whatever. But back to like kind of the white paper that Franklin's drawing up is, why are politicians even interested in reading this USDV white paper? Like, what is actually their reason, in your opinion, for having interest in it?
So I was just as surprised. Like, I was really flabbergasted. That's when we knew that we really had something special. I mean, in every entrepreneur's project, right, there's an apex where they go from crazy to people saying this is a great idea, and that was kind of the tipping point where it was like, oh my god, you know, we really have good timing here. Part of it, I think, is just politicians want to jump on the bandwagon. You know, they just want to kind of be seen as this whole El Salvador thing. They want to be seen as crypto positive. Alternatively, they want to be looking at options, and the options really are these privatized stablecoins as they kind of scale and become more accessible. Is this something that the US people should be using? You know, some of it is just comparing privatized stablecoin to CBDCs. Some of it is just essentially trying to be up to date with a lot of these projects that are coming out. Because obviously, you know, an SEC regulated stablecoin, or an SEC, you know, regulated entity issuing a stablecoin is a big deal. But what we don't want to do is we don't just want to throw it out there without any sort of support, whether that be from regulated entities or whether it be from government entities. It's really about longevity, right? Longevity is the key. We want this to be a very solid project 5 years from now. We want this to be, you know, one of the leading projects, one of the leading stablecoins. So just to, yeah, that was basically it. Why, in my opinion, why they would be interested in something like USDV. Probably comparing it to a lot of CBDCs, trying to stay up to date on the market. Some of them want to be seen as crypto savvy, so they want to look for a project that they can support from the grassroots. I mean, there might be an alternative reason, but it wasn't anything negative. Like, they haven't really been inquiring about anything regulated. They haven't been saying like, oh well, you know, how about this, how about that. It's just been, most of the time, it's just been curiosity, you know. And if you look at something like El Salvador, we spoke with two, I don't want to say representatives, but we spoke with two people that have been working with the team that's been working with El Salvador. And what they have said that they're interested in is essentially an international USD. That's one of the terms that they use, or an offshore USD. So that's something that politicians might be looking into. But just off the top of my head, that's what I've been racking my brain. That they're the reasons that I think they might be interested.
All right, cool. Thank you.
No worries, guys. Any other questions?
I guess I'll ask another one. So, say I'm staking USDV, right, and the money is being used to fund a loan for someone that's using like a Vemanti owned entity. It's like, an e-loan type of thing, whatever. So I'm staking USDV. Is that somehow converted into the Vietnamese dong when someone accepts the loan? How does that actually work from a technical standpoint?
You're talking about the reserve management on both sides?
Well,
Like
I'm
if
saying like, yeah, I guess it would be the reserve manager. I'm basically saying I have USDV, I'm staking it, and how I generate interest, right, is because it's being loaned out to someone. They're using it to fund their business in Vietnam. They're
Gotcha.
clearly in Vietnam. They're going to be using the dong, right, to conduct their business. If my understanding of it's correct, I was just wondering, like, when does that transition happen from USDV into the dong?
So there's a couple of options really. There's a couple of different alternatives as well. So one of them would be the staked asset is essentially held, and then what we do is we use a liquidity provider to essentially reserve that cash. So the USD always remains as USD, and then the dong is essentially loaned from liquidity provider. So then we share some of the monetization with those people. It's a very safe method. We anticipate that it's very reasonable. It's nothing that would take away from stakeholders themselves. So that's one option. The other option is we just do a straight fiat conversion with a favorable mid-market rate. And then the other option is we essentially use the USD on both sides. So USD in the US and then VND in Vietnam. Depending on the floats that we keep on both sides, we can essentially just do a straight swap. So there's no exchange. It's really just an alternative, what do you call it? Like an alternative asset distribution.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
No worries, guys. I actually have to jump off pretty soon. Is there anyone with one last question?
Win Lambo.
Moon.
Hey, thank you, Warren and Connie, for the time tonight.
Thank you.
Hey, Connie,
Thanks,
I
guys.
just wanted to say something. Connie, I just wanted to say that if you could research a forward split and look into the benefits of it, possibly pass on that message to Tan. That's all. I want the
Okay.
stock to have more money. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, guys. It's much appreciated. Any questions, just tag me. And if you're interested in being part of the whitelist, just send me a message with whatever questions you have. But make sure that the last message you send is USDV whitelist. That would make it much easier for me to come through the messages. But really, thanks for joining us today, guys. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Warren. Thank you, Connie.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.